Hey everybody, you're logged onto the Trenternet. I remain Trent. So there's been a bit of Daraku Tenshi news that came out of Evo Japan, of all places. I can't believe I'm finally sitting here for the first time, probably since my full-fledged review on the game, providing you guys with some updated information on Daraku Tenshi, and it's not a bait and switch this time. There's no Senator Armstrong meme, there's no Skyrim intro, nothing like that. Just some actual news about Daraku Tenshi Complete Edition, aka The Fallen Angels Revenge. So I'm going to cover this thing kind of from the beginning to catch everybody up. Try to go to the timestamp below if you just want to see the new update from last night. Anyway, circa 2019, specifically May 26th, The Fallen Angels Complete Edition was announced for console and arcade. And so the original announcement was that Zero Div, which is owned by City Connection, they basically did this 10-year anniversary event at Mikado, and they said, hey, we're going to release a completed version of The Fallen Angels. It's going to have all the missing characters. That would be, Snake, Sid, Lapis, and Jimmy. They're going to be in the game. We're going to finish out the story. We're going to release this thing on the Exa Arcadia, and then later it'll be ported to Switch, presumably Switch, because that's where all of Zero Div's games go to, right? Zero Div owns the rights to basically the entire Psycho back catalog, and I believe they're owned by City Connection. And so what Zero Div does is they port all those games to the Switch. So like if you go to the Switch eShop and you search by developer and you go to Zero Div, you're going to find all the old Psycho arcade games on there. Anyway, this came out and everybody was excited, and you can see that Gamatsu has linked the Unseen 64 article on the game and how it was unfinished. That article written by yours truly, by the way. Go check it out. It's some very 2000s writing I did. And then just silence. So after this information dropped, complete silence, no updates from EXA, and then COVID-19 happened. So a lot of people assumed that the game was dead, vaporware, killed by COVID, you name it. I tweeted EXA Arcadia a couple of times and said, hey, is this still happening? All they would say was yes, and that was really it. They didn't really respond to anything else or any further questions. I don't think I was mean to them. I just said, is this still happening? They said yes. I said thanks. Look forward to playing it. But whatever. They're kind of touchy based on their interactions with the community, I think. So anyway, eventually, EXA added a page for Daraku Tenshi onto their website, to their games, their list of games. Now, you may notice I'm on the Wayback Machine, and there's a reason for that. So at this point, you'll notice the game's called The Fallen Angels Temp Title. And it says about Psycho's cult favorite fighter, The Fallen Angels, in parentheses Temp Title, returns to the arcade with a director's cut featuring never-before-seen new characters and game balance changes to ensure high revenue for all locations. Developer Exa Arcadia alongside City Connection, sound to be determined. Notice this description here. Never before seen new characters, game balance changes to ensure high revenue for all locations. And you've got some screenshots down here, pretty much all of which were lifted from other sources. None of these were taken by the EXA Arcadia staff. So, for example, I've gone to Google search here and I've typed in Daraku Tenshi. Hey, there's my review. And if you go and look, where is it? I know. So if you go to the page here, this screenshot of Cool and Hygie on the select screen, there it is, right there. One of the first things that pops up when you go, and you can even blow the screenshot up, and you can see this little border here on the right, or left rather, the same border. You can see in the screenshot the credit was set to seven credits. It's the same screenshot. They literally just went to Google and plucked a few screenshots off of there for their thing. Let me go back to the page here. And they're all just from various places around the web and on Google. Like I think one of these is just a screenshot from Chrysalid, who is the YouTuber that posts the videos about playing as bosses in old fighting games. Like one of these is just a thumbnail from one of Chrysalid's videos. I mean, I don't know where this GIF came from. The one thing that would probably make you think these were not in-game screenshots is they included shots that show Trigger and Carlos being played by the player. So that is not something that happens in Daraku Tenshi unless you're using MAME hacks or the boss hack ROM that's floating around. So if I was the official company, I wouldn't show this because it wouldn't be something that would happen unless they're trying to claim that maybe, hey, in this version we've rebalanced Carlos and Trigger so that they're playable. I don't think that's the case. I think they just went around grabbing screenshots off Google to put on their professional page, and that's what they ended up with. So yeah, take note of this. Back to this. I know we got on it. We chased a little rabbit there, but let's go back to this. Returns to the arcade with a director's cut featuring never-before-seen new characters and game balance changes to ensure high revenue. Now, this kind of just was here. And again, there was no update. EXA was not saying anything about this. Shoutouts to Guile Winquote. He went to Evo to their booth to ask them about the game, and they weren't there. They set up a booth, but they didn't man it with anybody, so he tried, but he couldn't ask them. So everybody just assumed this thing was dead. Nothing was going to happen. Vaporware. COVID killed it. And then this happened. If you go to the page today, they have renamed the game The Fallen Angels Revenge. So, hey, it has an official title. Things are moving along here. But you'll also notice the about has been sneakily changed. They now say Saikyo's cult favorite fighter, The Fallen Angels Revenge, returns to the arcade with a director's cut. And they've also included this new EXA exclusive only for arcades on Exa Arcadia, which is, of course, very disappointing because I don't even know where one of these is in the United States. I think they're predominantly a Japanese thing, and mainly collectors have these in America. I could be wrong. I have never heard of an arcade having an Exa Arcadia sitting around, much less an arcade where I'm from. But all this information is pretty much the same, other than they said the licensure was Saikyo, and that Exa Arcadia Team EXA AM6. This is just kind of a designation of an internal EXA team. If you go to some of the other games, they have different teams on them. And it says licensed by Saikyo, published by Exa Arcadia. Now this is interesting because Saikyo, who no longer exists, is up here. And all reference to Zero Div and City Connection and Saikyo has just been removed, scrubbed completely. And now it's EXA exclusive, only for arcades, it says. And more concerning is that all reference of cut features and cut characters has been removed. It's no longer here. And so you can see the page was first put up sometime around 2020, a few months after this original Gamatsu article popped out. And then it's just been kind of updated ever since. And then it was changed to The Fallen Angels Revenge at some point along the way. If you haven't kept up with it, there's a blog known as Sudden Death. Let me pull up Sudden Death. Yeah, Sudden Desu. It's a pun. If you haven't checked out Sudden Death, you need to check out Sudden Death because they have two really, really good articles about Daraku Tenshi and its development and the stuff that was cut. Very interesting article. They linked a lot of the stuff from the Cutting Room 4 page, which was made by yours truly, by the way. And it was an awesome article. And they also went into how Daraku Tenshi's code was a nightmare. And so you need to go read this about debug tools and hidden code. I'm not going to take the guy's thunder. You need to go read this article if you're interested in Daraku Tenshi. A very interesting article. But the long and the short of the first part of this is that Daraku Tenshi's code is a nightmare. It is spaghetti code to the max. It's a mess, all right? And so that, to me, this is my opinion, starts to make a little bit more sense as to why Director's Cut with new characters and game balance changed to a favorite fighter returns to the arcade with a Director's Cut. My guess is one of two things. One was Exa Arcadia saw what a cult classic Daraku Tenshi was, and they decided, hey, this is the perfect game for the Exa platform because no home publisher is going to pick this thing up in 2019 at the time, 2024. This game's going to be dead otherwise. But people who are really a fan of arcade games and they like obscure arcade games, this is a perfect thing for us. So let's see if we can't snag the license for it, update it, throw all the lost characters and lost content in there, and release it. And all those old fighting game heads that like exclusive games and old games and obscure games, they'll run to their arcade, and maybe even a few of these will buy, Fallen Angels Complete Edition Exa Arcadia cartridges for this. And then the spaghetti code happens. They get in there and they realize that, hey, these missing characters, they're nothing more than a couple of sprites. We don't have the data for these. If you play Daraku Tenshi, you can look at the screenshots down here. The sprites in this game are very uniquely done. I've heard rumors that they were like rotoscoped, like they made 3D models and then made sprites out of them to create them. Like all kind of crazy rumors with how they created these sprites, but they're just very detailed. The backgrounds in Daraku Tenshi are almost like watercolor paintings. They're very unique. My thought is they got this thing, they got in there, saw what a gigantic mess it was, and it just got thrown on the back burner because nobody had time to work on it. They were too busy hyping up Aka and Blue and all their other shooters and other things that were more reasonable to work on. And so they kind of said, we'll get to Daraku Tenshi not now, some point in the future. Later on, they decide, okay, we'll slap Fallen Angels Revenge on it. We'll give it an update, and we'll make it exclusive. And this kind of leads me into my second theory. The first theory, to summarize, is that they got the game. It turned out to be a way bigger headache than they thought to do all this stuff with, and so they just kind of put it on the back burner forever, and then they sneakily removed mention of characters and other content and just said it's going to be a director's cut on our platform exclusively. My second theory is that there was some sort of shenanigans that went on between Exa Arcadia, and I'm waiting on the page to open here, and City Connection and Zero Div. Because the original articles that came out about this mentioned City Connection and Zero Div working together with Exa Arcadia to give this thing an arcade release and then port it to the home console. But Exa Arcadia is very stingy with their games. They want them to remain on the Exa platform. That way you have to play them in the arcade. And to be fair to them, that is what killed arcades in the first place, was home consoles. So Exa, it's just good business sense for them, and it fits their modus operandi of bringing people to the arcades. They want it to be exclusive. Well, when this happens and this little exclusive tag pops up, suddenly all mention of City Connection and Zero Div and a home release is thrown out the window. So you see what I'm saying here? I don't know if there was a legal struggle, if there was some sort of disagreement, if there was some argument over the licensing. Something happened. I don't know what. I'm just theorizing at this point. Those are my theories. So nobody come at me and say that I'm slinging mud or I'm making accusations, because they're just my theory. There was either some sort of copyright struggle or some sort of release struggle, or maybe the spaghetti code got in the way. Something happened to delay this game. So that brings us to last night's update. So Exa Arcadia was at Evo Japan, and they were dropping updates and hints about all their upcoming projects because they port a lot of fighters. And at the very end of the slideshow, this popped up. And if you can't read Japanese, for the most part, this just says, oh yeah, one more thing. There's been some sort of technical issue, so we're going to end the broadcast early. But we wanted to show you this. This slide, don't forget about Daraku Tenshi, aka Fallen Angels Revenge. It's still in development. We haven't forgot about it. More info soon, yada yada. And they released these two screenshots, which I'm sad to say are the most boring screenshots you could have released to hype people up for something you've been working on since 2019. The first shot on the left here is just the Japanese version of the Fallen Angels title screen. And you can see at the bottom, this is in Daraku Tenshi font. They have hacked in copyright Psycho and copyright Exa Arcadia, all rights reserved. So essentially a title screen. And then over here on the right, they have this other screenshot of the game with just Harry and Cool in the middle of a match. But this is a stage that's in the current version of the game. These are two characters that are in the current version of the game. This attack and blood splatter effect is in the current version of the game. There's no updates to the HUD. The only thing we could figure out in the Daraku Tenshi Discord was that these screenshots appear to be widescreen. So they've essentially hacked the game into widescreen, which given is a pretty cool update. It will be neat to play Daraku Tenshi in widescreen in 1,000 years when I finally get to go to an arcade that has this and it actually comes out and I get to play it. Just kind of strange, though. These are the two screenshots you show, a title screen hack and just a widescreen hack of the same game. But this also, in my opinion, gives more credence to my first theory that maybe they're going back on these, cut characters things here, and maybe this is just going to be more like a port with some balance updates because Daraku Tenshi at high level has some problems. Characters like Urien and Haiji are pretty freaking strong. So if anything, Exa Arcadia could come in and balance those guys and turn the game into something that could be played competitively in 2024. I think that would still be really cool. But it will be very, very disappointing if the lost characters can't be added back into the game. It's my deep hope that somehow City Connection, Psycho, and Zero Div, what was left of them, still had files and sprites for Jimmy, Sid, Lapis, at least one of them. If we could get one of them back in the game, that would be great. And that they somehow got those to EXA Arcadia, and they're just really struggling with trying to figure out how to get those into the game. But anyway, other than all the concrete facts about, the announcement and the pages changing and the descriptions changing, and this article from Sudden Deaths, a lot of this stuff is just my theory. All right. So EXA Arcadia, please do not copyright strike my video. Don't go to EXA Arcadia's Twitter and harass them. I do find it interesting that they lock this so that only accounts that they mention can reply. I think that may be my fault. Sorry, guys. Anyway, what do you guys think? Is Daraku Tenshi, aka Fallen Angel's Revenge, is it ever actually going to happen? Are the new characters toast? Will anybody besides people who have an EXA Arcadia cabinet at their local arcade, all two of us, will anybody else ever get to play this thing? Let me know what you think in the comments and what you're most looking forward to in Daraku Tenshi Complete if it ever comes out. I really, really would like to see the story scenes added back in. I don't know if EXA's focus will be on that since they're primarily an arcade platform. But I think if anything, if they can't get the characters back in there, they have to do something to give this game the story and endings it deserved. Because in my mind, that's the biggest missing piece of the puzzle for Daraku Tenshi, the most tantalizing thing you could have. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I remain Trent from the Trenternet. More content to come. See you guys soon.